What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the J-Rock Show here from the SimWorld TV studios here in Houston, Texas. I am your host, as always, Jason J.K. Candell, and it's my birthday on Monday, so we're doing a little bit of a J-Rock Show birthday edition here, even though we're here on Friday, so hope you guys be on the lookout for that. But today I am joined by my first ever two-time guest, Mr. SimWorld Prep Champion of the Bay Area Breakers, Mr. Dre Pope. Welcome back to the hot seat, my friend. How are we doing on this fine Friday?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm back in town for the Stars of Tomorrow showcase. I'm from LA, so coming there to support my former players and do a little scouting. For next season and season after. And by the way, happy early birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Coach Pope. I'm looking forward to seeing how your future ends up. We'll get into that later in the show, though. Congrats on the championship. Excited for the Stars of Tomorrow showcase.
Yes,
So,
for sure. Thank you very much.
of course, a lot of congratulations in order on this episode of the J Rock Show. But before we get into some more of the Coach Pope personalized stuff, you know the drill. You know we like to start with some college. We're going to start with our J Rock Performer of the Week. And this week, I'm going to do something different. We're going to go with two. There's Josiah Townley of Mississippi State. You knock off number one Bama, 27 points. A big man hitting 5 threes. We love modern big mans in the world of basketball. And also Travion Novick, because he lit up Louisville in the game of the week. VT walked things off, finally get a quality win in ACC play. They're looking legit. So between those two guys, I had a very tough time deciding. So that's why we're doing a bit of a dual J-Rock Performer of the Week. But a lot of movement in the top 10 this week, Coach Pope. And it's interesting because Mississippi State's at number 12. They're a very good team. But the way they beat Alabama, they were up by nearly 30 at halftime. Like, that is unprecedented against the Nate Oates team.
Man, that's crazy. Mississippi State, they came out ready, swinging, and Alabama was, shell shocked. They did come back. Bama had a 57-point second half, but Mississippi State, you know, early lead in the, first half, it was too much to overcome for Bama. And like you said, Townley, he played his tail off. Big man 5 threes. Hey, I'm loving it.
Exactly. You're a coach. We don't see a lot of big men, at least on the prep circuit, that can shoot like that. Think about a guy like Andrei Ivanov. He's a guy that's always inside. The same thing with a guy like Tony Henderson. So I like watching some SimWorld U and seeing these big men kind of refine their games a little bit more, because I think that's something we're going to start seeing happen at the prep level, because it's kind of rare, which is why I love it. But Travion Novick, big one for the Hokies against Louisville in the game of the week on Wednesday. And Virginia Tech's looking good. Louisville's now lost back-to-back. I'll be honest, I have some concerns not just about this Alabama team, but about this Louisville team, because they both seem to have a little bit of inconsistency within them.
I can understand what you were saying, about Alabama and Louisville being inconsistent. On Alabama side, they lost their sharpshooter, Weaver, and they don't really have that 3-point specialist. But between Epps and Cutler and them, and even DJ Childs, I think they're going to get it together. They're still going to be most likely a number one seed come hoop stereo time, and I expect them to make the Elite Eight. On Louisville side, um, we know them to be giant killers. I know I seen that game. I watched that game, and I was just like, wow, when Virginia Tech hit that last second shot. Um, but for stretches in that game, Louisville, they wasn't really their offense wasn't really going, and they had mental lapses on defense. They do need to tighten that up. But if they have a favorable seeding in Hoopsteria, I can see Louisville going on a extended run. I do like this Louisville team, so I'm not going to give up on them.
Yes, I do as well. I saw an article from, I believe it was ESPN on Thursday, where they were talking about how Louisville's a little bit inconsistent. Pooh Lewis shot 8 for 21. They had 14 turnovers, and even though Virginia Tech went 0 of 5 from deep, Louisville, who shot 50% from long range, could not take advantage, which is very telling. Like, because Travion Novick played really well, Canyon Perez had 5 steals. It's those unforced errors with Louisville which worry me. But they have the guard duo, which I really like. I really like both Lewis and Loftus, so I think that they very well could do make a little bit of noise, do some damage. But as for this Alabama team, they have a lot of depth. They don't have a true star. And that was the point I saw brought up by Zach Nichols, where DJ Childs is very good. Levin Cutler, very good. DeJuan Epps, very good. Quincy Henderson, very good. But that's not a Cooper Kingy Cross level guy or a Jalen Snow level guy who like whenever you need a bucket, you know you can trust that guy. Like, and without Aiden Weaver, there's not a lot of sharpshooting on this Alabama team, so that's something I see as a concern. I prefer Duke to them. I prefer Villanova to them. I even prefer Texas to Alabama. And I think you can make the argument that there are more teams than that are better than Alabama. I prefer Kentucky even as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on them four teams. I really do. Kentucky, Texas, Villanova, Duke. I mean, hey, you can't stop the cyborg for real. So, hey,
You prep coaches know Cooper Flag all too well. And that kind of brings me into another point I kind of want to bring up on this episode is we talk a lot about the freshmen. We talk about the Cooper Flags, the Arthur Lattimores, the Bernari Jameses, the guys like that who you prep coaches know really well. But I want to bring up another guy who's kind of had a bit of an up and down freshman season. This is a SimWorld Prep Player of the Year, mind you, and that's Japheth Towns. Guy's got some shooting problems where he's like takes such volume shots that he's shooting like 8 for 20, 8 for 24, numbers like that every single game, and it's kind of stunting his development in a sense where you see a guy like Barkley James blossoming as a go-to star after not being that at prep. For Japheth Towns, it's big man on campus to big man on campus, and the transition hasn't really been there.
yeah, I think with Jafet, I mean, it's he just having a really bad stretch. They didn't really. I think he was the only recruit coming in for Missouri this upcoming season, and so I know Bannon, he stepped up at times, but a lot has been placed on Jafet's shoulders, and we have to temper that expectation. I mean, he's still just a freshman, and he probably is still getting adjusted to the pace of the SWU game. So we have to give him a little bit of grace. I understand, it's freshmen that's doing their thing, but it's different levels to everything too. Um, don't get it twisted. He still can shoot. He still can do his thing. I think I would expect more next season, especially with the incoming recruits coming in. To help him as well.
Japheth Towns, he's a guy I really like, Coach Pope. He's a SimWorld Prep Player of the Year for a reason. Like you mentioned, he's only a freshman. It's really only him and Dylan Bannon for this Missouri team. They're not that good. I don't think they're that well coached. And you're going to see some growing pains when you're kind of throwing a guy like this into the fire. There's high expectations. It's a pretty good historic program, too, with Missouri. They've had some good years in recent. And he's a guy that's got SWBA potential, but This is feels like a guy to me where he could fall more in the 26 draft if he decides to go for it, or maybe he's even a 4 year product at Missouri and decides to stay longer to refine his game a little bit more. But I think that he's a guy that just hasn't been developing as quickly as a guy like Cooper Flag, just because he's being asked to do so much with such an awful supporting cast around him.
Definitely agree with that. So we just gotta, like I said, temper our expectations. They got some reinforcements coming in. Um, Hopefully, it'll be a better season for next year because he's really talented. Facing off against him in SimWorld Prep, man. You know, he's like that. Just the freshman blues. That's it.
Yeah, I know you know Japheth well from the former SimWorld Prep season from last year when you guys were in the same region. But that brings me to the topic of SimWorld Prep. Can, we said congratulations for getting your ring with the Breakers after everything that's went down. You basically brought in a whole new squad, 6 new recruits in a game with what was it, 18 lead changes, 9 ties in that area. You guys won a tough game with Best Coast, and I know this is something that's so important to you. It's actually been what you've been through. So just what does this honor really mean to you, Coach Pope?
Like I said before, it's redemption. Um, you know, just how can I say it? Like my guys believed in me the day that I recruited them, the day they said they wanted to come to Bay Area, despite, what happened and the trolling and the disrespect and whatever the case may be, even throughout the season, we went 0 and 2 in two of our tournaments and then, we won two. And then even then, we came in as a 13th seed and, you know, we were still hearing the disrespect up until the championship game. And it was just validation, man. Like we said in the, media, we was never like them. And we proved that by winning the chip.
Yes, you and I did speak about that before the show. We spoke about that after the game even, and I get that. But I think the most impressive part of it is the fact that your two leading scorers in that game, both 16 years old. Jay Midoriya reclassified to go to SimWorld U a year early. People criticized that decision. And now Jake Lee has been really kind of coming on as of late as well. And what did that game kind of show you about the maturity of those two players and their poise in such a big moment despite their young age?
Jay, I can't say enough about him. I named him team captain before the season. He showed the work ethic that, I want to see in my players. He's the first one in the gym, last one out. Um, he was the MVP of the West Coast Takeover, um, MVP of the Last Dance, championship game. He's our court general on the court, and him hitting that final shot, the 3 point shot that he made towards the end of the game, that was really crucial for us. And I understand. I heard the chatter about him reclassifying and he's not ready, but I knew he was ready. Me and him decided, hey, you should go here or whatever the case may be. Blocked out all the outside noise, and he validated it, in this last dance run. So it is what it is at this point. And for Jeek, he was somebody that I got late in the recruiting cycle. He started every game for us. Um, he did good, but he exploded come the layup invitational when I changed schemes to the high post scheme that I usually run. And it unlocked him and it opened everything else up for everybody else on the floor. With his passing, his vision, his footwork. He can get it down low. He can hit the mid-range shot, and he can bring it up the floor. For him to do all that at 6'11" and at 16 is nothing short of amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if he, extended his range to the 3-point line. I wouldn't be surprised if he reclassify for SWU next season. He's just that good, and for them to be both 16 and doing all that, I'm proud of that.
Yes, but you brought in so many guys who have done a lot. You brought in, like I mentioned, you brought in 6 new players. You whole new starting lineup at that, and that was like a lot of murkiness in your program after the Trey Hyman situation, and now you leave SimWorld Prep a champion in some elite company, and then you announce your resignation, and that's another thing I really want to talk to you about. We knew you had interest in SimWorld U jobs, and we knew that there was a real possibility you would end up taking one. But right after the championship run, you resign from Bay Area to pursue SimWorld U coaching opportunities. You and I have spoken a little bit. We know a lot about some of the schools that have been talking to you, that have been interested in you, that have interviewed you. And I don't feel like I'm at liberty to discuss that right now, but I would love to know what you told your players and those guys in your locker room about you leaving and what you hope to accomplish coaching in SimWorld U.
I told my team that, you know, I love coaching them. I love coming into the office, coming to the court, seeing them put the work in every single day. We became family, and I appreciate every one of them taking that leap of faith in me, to let me coach them. They kind of knew throughout the season, and I expressed that to them that I may be taking, I may be, taking an SWU job, for that next season. But our goal was always to, you know, get better and try to win a championship. And we accomplished that. And I'm just so fortunate to, just to be able to coach them, to be able to win a championship with them. And the recruits that I recruited to that team for next season, they know um, what was going to happen too. And they chose to come to Bay Area anyway. And with my former assistant head coach taking over, I know that Bay Area is in good hands.
Definitely.
As far as my goals, I want to be able to come to a program where I can establish the same culture that I had in Bay Area on day one. I want to bring players in that are willing to be coached, willing to put in the time and effort to become great. I want to help them get to the next level to SWBA. Um, I want to I want to make them, proficient in the system that I run, but I want them to be better human beings.
Yes, I get that. I from any individual I've spoken to who's been coached by you, whether it's guys from this year, last year, guys who have been recruited by you, you're a player's coach, and that's what I've heard in SimWorld U circles, and that's why schools like you, where maybe it's not a massive job like a Miami or Houston, but you can very well set yourself up for success coaching at the right school or at the right program and give yourself an opportunity to move up because you know when to kind of take those opportunities that are presented in front of you. So I'm interested to see how you're going to approach that.
Yes, it doesn't matter where I go to. It could be a Boise State, LSU, Iowa State, St. Mary's, Cal. Um, I know that I can recruit. I know that I can communicate. I know that players will want to come play for me after seeing what I did in prep. So it 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 doesn't matter. Like I said, as long as I have you know the leeway to build up the team the way I see fit, establish my culture, and have the support from the officials, I'm good.
Yeah, I understand that. We got a lot of schools hot on your trail. A lot of schools that are looking for kind of that culture shake up. But just curious, does location kind of play a factor to you at all? Like, is there anywhere that you'd rather move your family, or is it just all about the best opportunity?
I mean, it's all about the best opportunity. If I gotta go to the East Coast to take a job, it doesn't. I can do that. I have family on the East Coast, so it doesn't matter if I stay in California. That's great. I'm already have ties in California, of course, so it doesn't matter. Like like you said, the right opportunity.
Yeah, I get it. You just want to be focused on winning games and getting going at the next level. But that kind of leads me into my next question and my final question of this episode, and that's just talking about the recruiting discrepancies between SimWorld Prep and college. We see guys like Garrett Hart, who may have had smaller roles in prep and then kind of blossom in college. So, would your recruiting strategy or recruiting style be any different? Or, like, how would you kind of tackle that differently compared to at the prep level where the playing field is a lot different?
I wouldn't do anything different. I would recruit to my scheme. Um, like I said, like I don't care where you ranked at. I don't care what it is or what you've done in prep more so. But if you have the skill set that I'm looking for to run what I want to, then I'm coming to, recruit you. I'm going to communicate with you. I'm going to communicate with you each and every day until you sign. So that's just, it is what it is.
I get it. It's I know you're very communicative. You and I talk not maybe not every day, but very close to it. So it's great to have you back on the show. As first two-time guest was a great time for me as well. You know you're welcome back anytime, especially when you're coaching college, because it'll be great to pick your brain a little bit. So I thank you for that. Congratulations again on winning the chip. And with that, I that's going to do it for this episode with Coach Pope. Great guest as always, always informative, and I'm looking forward to seeing where his journey ends. So I hope you all are as well. So remember, folks, SimWorld, the only place you can see the game, be the game. Have a great week, and Coach Pope, best of luck to you going forward.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a great week, everybody. Stay warm.